Welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast, your guide to optimizing your life one health tip at a time. This podcast is designed to entertain and inform, not to provide medical or health advice. Always consult your doctor when it comes to your personal health or before you make any changes to your diet, exercise, or lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast, stripped down edition. This time we're talking about comprehensive lab testing. We've already talked about this, so if you want the in-depth version, please go to Season 1. This is Season 2. We're going to strip it down, make it ultra efficient, and we're going to try to stay out of the weeds. I'm here with Dr. K.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us as we discuss kind of a hot topic nowadays. You know, there's a bunch of different companies out there now promising comprehensive lab testing. What's that actually mean? So the way I view it is, you know how there's whole body MRIs? And they don't recommend doing that if you're a hypochondriac because you're going to freak out.
Yeah, because it could find incidental findings that you don't need to do anything with.
Yep. So kind of the same idea applies to this. This is a whole body blood scan. We're scanning for literally everything possible through your blood work. Now, we could scan for literally everything. If you had a credit card with an unlimited budget, if you're a billionaire and said, I want to know everything ever, order every test possible on me, we could. It would cost like $100,000. Is there a point to that? Probably not.
What do we do for people in terms of comprehensive
So
lab testing?
it's, to some degree, we have an overarching panel, and then we have symptom-mediated testing. So we have what we call the longevity panel. It's roughly 50-something tests that are drawn through Quest, LabCorp. Your insurance covers these. And we're looking at everything that we possibly can that your insurance will cover. That's, some organ functions, your blood counts like red cells, white cells, electrolyte levels, some vitamin levels, some mineral levels, a whole bunch of cardiovascular inflammatory markers, just to really give us a picture of, are you at risk of having a heart attack in a year, in 10 years, in 20 years? Never. We look at thyroid function, a few different chronic disease states, autoimmune functions, generalized inflammatory markers. Did I miss anything?
I think that's probably about it.
Yep.
So what I see a lot, though, is people come in and they're like, hey, I had this company or, this online platform or this thing do comprehensive lab testing for me. And one of two things they mentioned to me, well, one I notice and one they mention. One, they mention it's expensive.
Yep.
And two, I notice often there's not nearly as many tests as we pull.
No, they're doing, spending like $1,000 and they give you like an AI-driven result. Like you can do the same thing. Take your Quest Bloodwork, plug into ChatGPT, and it's going to spit out some answers for you. And their models are probably a little bit more tuned to blood work, but that's pretty much what's happening. Whereas, if you come to see us or come to see an in-person doctor, there's a good chance you get a lot of these tests covered.
Yeah. So, and I think it's important to note that AI lab interpretation is a thing that's happening now.
Yep.
It is a long way to go.
Yep.
So we are not there yet.
Yep.
A qualified practitioner is still substantially better because the AI model only knows what it's fed.
Yep. And so basically the AI looks at each, let's say you have 100 tests. It looks at test one individually from the other 99. And so it just spits out results based on each individual test. Whereas a good practitioner can look at tests 1 through 20 that all correlate and come up with a conclusion from all 20.
Yep. I think that's very important.
Yep.
So basically what we do is different in two different ways. One, it's more comprehensive than most of these online platforms.
Yep.
Your results are generally explained to you in a manner that's more understandable. And we do it in a way that you can get most of it covered by insurance.
Yep. And then the other thing, a lot of these online tests, they say, okay, here's your results. Go talk to your practitioner anyway about what to do about them. So let's say that we do your Quest we do your Quest blood work and it comes up positive for Lyme disease. What do you do about that?
Well, the AI says, go talk to your doctor.
Right. And that's where we might jump into cash pay specific Lyme testing, see how bad it really is. Or let's say it comes up high for Candida and we are suspicious you're full of mold. We might order a cash pay mold test. But I'm not going to order every single cash pay test under the sun off the get-go. I'm going to use that insurance covered blood work to further drive results.
So this is, I think, a very important point. When we say comprehensive lab testing, we are doing an initial scan for everything we can see that's covered by insurance.
Yep.
to see what we might need to investigate further. It's not that we're testing everything under the sun with a $100,000 panel.
Yep.
It's saying, hey, this is everything we can get that's reasonably going to be covered, and then we can investigate things further if we need to.
It's individualized, personalized testing and treatment.
Yep. And you do not get that on a online platform with an AI interpretation.
No.
Okay. So in terms of like the actual test, in our previous episode, we went into what makes up comprehensive lab testing, blood testing, and all that. And I'm not sure if you want to go into that now, or do you want to just do a 5-minute high-level summary of it?
I feel like I already summarized pretty decently all the things that
categories.
we're looking. Yeah, and because from there, we could spend 30 minutes talking about what to do if your ANA is off. But is that relevant to 99% of people listening to this? No, because 99% of them are going to have a normal ANA and never will have an abnormal ANA. ANA is an autoimmune test. And the same thing applies for pretty much every test. Most tests, when I sit down to review every single, we review these 30 pages of lab results, I end up only touching on what we need to touch on. I don't sit there and go over every single thing, but like, oh, yes, your red blood cells are normal, and here's what being normal means, because it doesn't matter. You're normal, and they'll probably always be normal. We focus on what's important and what we need to address.
Okay, so the main takeaway I'm getting here is if you work with a qualified practitioner who knows how to navigate pricing and testing comprehensively, you will get dialed-in results personalized for you for the least amount of money out of pocket.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you go. Comprehensive lab testing. What else should we know about comprehensive lab testing? How about frequency? I mean,
That's a good one.
Say I come in, I do the longevity panel.
Yep.
Do I need to do the longevity panel every 3 months?
No. So what I recommend is what's abnormal, we'll address at a rate as needed. If your hormones are abnormal, it might be in a month. If it's your vitamin D, it might be in 3 months, whatever. Longevity panel, I recommend no more often than once a year, and that's an absolute minimum or maximum. Yeah. If you did it every 5 years, probably fine.
Okay, so the big panel, you do every 1 to 5 years.
Yep.
And then basically all the draws in between are completely dependent on you and your results and what you're doing.
Correct.
Okay, so someone comes in for hormones, like you said, it'll be 30 days based on their new hormone levels, and then you'll adjust things. And then it'll probably bump out as you progress. As you fix issues, you'll have less tests to look at, and you'll need less frequency.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a big thing, especially for like hormone replacement. Because the thought of, I'm on hormone replacement therapy, but the thought of me doing blood tests every month, I don't have time for that.
Right.
But I've been on hormone therapy for so long now that I can easily go 6 to 8 to 9 months without testing my hormones.
And well, I mean, talking about hormones, that's pretty much how it stretches out. I don't want to derail too much, but the way I do hormone testing, day 0, day 30, and then 3 months from then, and then 3 months from then, and then 6 months from then, and you go to like once or twice a year, depending on how stable you are.
Yeah.
So, frequency stretches as you go.
Yeah. So the goal is to get good information that you need personalized for you at the cadence in which you need it.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
I will say that cash pay comprehensive lab testing does have its place. So there are some people who don't have insurance.
Yep.
In that case, what we would do is do a stripped down version of the longevity panel that hits 70%-ish of what we need to know, that we can get for a price that's, $600, somewhere in there.
Exactly.
Okay. Anything else on comprehensive lab testing?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Moral of the story here is get with a provider who knows what they're doing, knows how to work within the system to save you money and get what you need personalized.
Yep.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Peak Performance Podcast. This was the stripped down version of comprehensive lab testing. I'm Coach Kyle here with Dr. K.
We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peak Performance Podcast, your #1 resource for today's top health hacks and facts. You can follow us on Instagram at the Peak Performance Pod or on X at PerformPod. You can also check out our website and weekly blogs at peakperformancepodcast.online. Again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. We put out a new podcast every Thursday. content of this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purposes of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and heed all directions and cautions that accompany the product. Information found or received through the podcast should not be used in place of a consultation or advice from a healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or should you have any healthcare questions, please promptly call or see your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Coach Kyle, Dr. K, and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of the information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein